Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to class, everyone. This module, Module 4, is focusing on fundamental American liberties. After this lesson, you should have a better understanding of the meaning of rights in a democratic society, the difference between civil liberties and civil rights, and more about the Bill of Rights as we explore parts of it, like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, the rights of people accused of crimes, the right to privacy, and last but not least, explore political correctness. This is an excellent space for you to pause this video and check out the song I would have played for you, Were We Together? And so let's do it as that. So pause this. I'll put the link to the music in the description box. Listen to that and come back when you are ready. Okay, so it's really a careful balancing act, right? And by that I mean the balancing act between the rights of the individual and I guess you could say the rights of the collective, the rights, the health, the safety, right? It's like balancing those things, okay? So individuals' rights can conflict with society's needs and the demands of collective living, right? And we have a timely example to highlight this point right here with COVID, with masking, for example, right? So how do you weigh the rights of the individual around wearing a mask versus the health and the safety of the collective? That's the balancing act. And that's just one example. We can talk, there are endless examples on trying to highlight this balancing act between the rights of the individual and the collective, okay? For example, the right to make private or personal decisions versus the right to be protected from harm by others, right? So that could be said with everything. With driving a car, right? How do you have safety of, and freedom for the individual versus the safety of the collective, right? COVID, what else? Voting, right? Can you think of an example, right? An example where in our society where the rights of an individual are weighed against the rights of the collective? Hopefully you will see some more examples as we continue on with this lecture, but what do you think? Okay. So, the right to make private or personal decisions versus the government's need to protect public interest, right? That really weighs that same issue again, right? Said a different way, right? But it really is about the personal, private person's decision versus the public, okay? And how do you weigh those things? And in a timely discussion, this has changed over time, right? How we look at this, and particularly in this country, in a post 9/11 world, how do you weigh out liberty, right? The freedom, the rights of the individual with national security? And these are really big questions, right? I mean, in terms of thinking about, for example, if you've ever been on a plane, right? The precautions that you have to take in order to get on a plane, they're taking off the shoes and the belts and the things, right? Right. Ostensibly, we do all those things for the safety of the collective. At least that's how it's been presented to us. And so we're weighing that, right? The rights of the individual versus the rights, the safety, the well-being of the collective. Okay. Civil rights versus civil liberties. Okay. Civil liberties. These are the limits on federal government so that people can freely exercise their rights. Right? The limits on the federal government. They protect our right to think and act without governmental interference. while civil rights are the freedom to participate in the full life of the community and exercise equal opportunity. So the federal government typically secures these rights and freedoms. Now, one way that I find helpful to think about the difference between these things is that with civil liberties, it's like, right, as it says here, it's the spaces where the government can't intervene, for example, right? The limits, things that hold back the state, the government from intervening in your life, as opposed to civil rights, right? Where the government has typically had to do something, make action, right? Make some sort of change in order to help to secure rights for others, right? So one is about limiting the role of the state, aka also known as the government, and one highlights civil rights, highlights where the government has had to do active work, active participation in order to secure rights to more people. Highlighted a different way, civil rights works, I guess it makes sense. It works to prevent discrimination. So it can work to prevent discrimination, yes. And civil liberties to provide basic rights and freedoms for folks. Civil liberties in the Constitution, right? Again, the right to free speech, free exercise of religion, the right to freely assemble, the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, the right to a speedy trial, an impartial jury, the right to confront witnesses, and the right to an attorney. And as always, I enjoy the use of pictographics. So we can see here the Bill of Rights as the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. And we can see them laid out here, of course, in this form, right? But, often in our lives when we talk about rights or the rights that you have to do something or other, really, the majority of the time, those things are really, truly based in the Bill of Rights, right? Like, I know my rights. If you know your rights, it's starting here. That for everyone to know their rights as developed here. Okay. So, I guess I should say them since we're together. Okay, so freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition, that's 1. The right to bear arms, that's 2. And of course, these are simplified, right? But we can go on. But the quartering of soldiers, arrest and searches, right? These are the themes of these amendments. The rights of persons who are accused of crimes, the rights of persons on trial for crimes, jury trial in civil cases, jury trial in civil cases at 7, limitations on bail and punishments 8, the rights kept by the people and power kept by the states or the people here. So transformation of the Bill of Rights. So if you all recall from, I believe, Module 2, that the Anti-Federalists, while they weren't really necessarily supportive of the Constitution, right, what got them to participate and to agree to it was getting the Bill of Rights. Okay, so the Anti-Federalists were fearful of central power. Originally, the Bill of Rights was interpreted to apply to the federal government, right, because it comes out of the federal government, not the states. Okay, so Congress shall make no law. So this really highlights that at first the Bill of Rights is really something that comes and is related to the federal government. So by the Civil War, it had become obvious that states could be as much of a threat to individual rights, right? So the 14th Amendment from 1868 was meant to extend the original Bill of Rights to the states in 1791. So it really highlights that it's not until this point that the Bill of Rights is extended to the states, and therefore, like in the federalist system, it's like you're doubly covered, because it's not just federal law; it's the states have to adapt it as well. So the Supreme Court started applying the Bill of Rights to states beginning in 1897. The Constitution was ratified September 17th, 1787, and the Bill of Rights signed December 15th, 1791.